Hello, 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 hello. All right, so we got a new way that we're going to do this. I don't know. You may or may not know that we turn these into episodes of the docket, which is our podcast. And we have decided that we're going to get our little hellos and we love you, beautiful humans, and our little chit chat and any kind of announcements out of the way first. And then when we're ready to rock and roll, what we're going to do is we're going to do the actual welcome to the docket presented by Defense Diaries and then talk about what it is. It's an internal thing that you all have to be subjected to because you have no choice. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's like we got to do what we got to do. So hopefully you won't find it too irritating. But hello, beautiful humans. I hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend. How was our weekend, babe?
Um, how was our weekend? Pretty busy.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't much relaxing, it didn't seem like
No.
Scarlett had volleyball tournament, which they didn't let us know about until Thursday, which really irritated me. Like, we're busy. Like, I need to know in advance. They can't be giving me shit like the day before. Oh, by the way, you got to drive 45 minutes twice over the weekend and spend all day at this place.
You can do it, Nikki! Kick him in his hairy balls!
Oh my God. Like, did you okay that's one of my least favorite Sandler movies. What is that one called with the devil, Nikki, whatever it is?
I don't know.
You love Sandler.
I
You know
do.
all of them. So at any rate, and then she had softball tryouts, which were a foregone conclusion. However, we did have to show up. So, but I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. It was kind of a weird weather weekend. We had like a 50-degree day, and then we had like bitter cold again. So typical Chicago. Typical Chicago shit. So, what else? What else we got? Oh, so we are not off the schedule. I know that I have not posted this week's schedule yet. I will. We have a couple of hiccups, and it's not really a hiccup, it's a celebration of the person that I love most on this planet, along with my children, and that's my beautiful wife. It's her birthday on Wednesday, March 5th. So Allie's one and only wish for her birthday was to play with our granddaughter, and
Yeah, they
she
were trying to take me to a restaurant. I'm like, no, 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 no.
because the problem is that our son and daughter-in-law are leaving for Indiana for like weeks on her birthday. So tomorrow, schedule got a little wacky. I'm going to end up streaming something. I have not abandoned Mullis. Obviously, we've got to check out and see what's going on with Karen Reed, find out where we stand, find out if this motion to dismiss is going to be heard or not, and then we'll plan accordingly after that's over. Additionally, I have also decided I'm going to do everything in my power to have us cover Aiden Kearney's, aka Turtle Boy, his hearing. It's Zoom only. I'm trying to see if I can get it. Love him or hate that guy. It like that's not the point here. What's at stake is a huge First Amendment issue that deserves to be covered. He's a reporter. You may not like his style. You may love his style. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is he's a reporter and he's got First Amendment rights. And to me, it appears that they're trying to weaponize the First Amendment to use it in criminal prosecutions. I've read through the motion to dismiss that was prepared by Bradel and I'm assuming Betterow sounded off in there as well. But we're going to do everything in our power to figure out a way to stream that hearing. The only question is it going to be in direct conflict with Karen Reed's hearing? So we'll know more tomorrow. We'll know more tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the day that we'll get some answers. But I can tell you, the one and only Kirk Nurmi is going to be joining us on Friday. I have not been able to pin down Stacey Aldridge, who is the defense's phone data expert in the Richard Allen case, this case, Delphi. I like she said she had the 6th available, which would be Thursday. She's like daytime though. So I kind of asked her begging. I'm like, is there any way you could do nighttime? Because I'm trying to stay on this set nighttime schedule because I think regularity helps in growing the channel. Like, hey, the modders are going to be on Monday and Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. They're going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 o'clock, like clockwork. And then Fridays is an afternoon live so that our friends across the big pond can enjoy us when it's not the middle of the night for them. I thought that would be a nice thing to do for them because we do have plenty of viewers and subscribers that are overseas. So we try to accommodate all of our people because we love you so very, very much. And with that, I think I'm going to do the full-blown intro. Babe, you got any other announcements you want to make?
I mean, you already announced that thanked Dr. Vonda for like 30 memberships.
I did not. I did
Well,
not.
I think we should do that right now.
I think we should too.
Very, very, very generous. Very generous.
You are amazing. We love you so much. Thank you for your always giving generosity. It means a lot to us. It really does. And Sean from Potentially Criminal is joining me Wednesday evening, and Allie. We haven't picked what we're going to talk about. It seems like it will have to be Reed. I'm sure we'll talk about Alan as well. And anything else that we can think of, we'll be talking about that. If you don't know Sean's channel, it's great. It's called Potentially Criminal. He'll be joining us Wednesday night. So right now, where we've got it Wednesday, we've got Sean from Potentially Criminal. I've been what I want to do with Karen Reed's case is I am trying to get. I want to get somebody that is pro-state on that case, like a lawyer that's pro-state on that case that thinks that the state has great evidence and that they proved their case in the first trial or that they're going to be able to prove it in the second one. And I want to have a civil debate. I'm so sick of Twitter. I mean, I enjoy Twitter because I get a lot of information off there in some ways, but in terms of trying to have a civil conversation between attorneys that are on opposite sides of that, I've never seen it. Like I can't see it. So, yeah, we're definitely when Kirk's on, the rule is we do not talk about. It's like Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club. That's a non-starter. Because he was first, like he's like, I don't like doing lives, dude, because everybody tries to talk to me about Jodi Arias, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it at all. It's like I gave up my career to do the right thing there, and that's it. That's all I got to say about it. So, and I respect that obviously quite a bit. It was a big move by Kirk.
I got to grab water.
Okay. So, as far as that goes, so again, Wednesday, 7, we will have Sean from Potentially Criminal. And then we will have on Friday Kirk. And I'm trying to set up if the thing with Stacey Albridge does not work for the 6th, I'm going to see if I can get a few lawyers. I'm going to try to I know that Tim Panic guy seems to be pro prosecution who claims he's a defense attorney. I see no indications of that, to be honest with you. I really don't. But I mean, I got to take the guy at his word. So I'm sure he says he is what he says he is, but he's kind of a surprising defense attorney. Not that you always have to into being a defense attorney isn't about thinking people are innocent of every crime. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. What it is you fight for justice in a system that is horrifically skewed towards the government. It's that simple. Like that is what our job is. It's to protect all of our rights and to try to make sure that the government isn't pulling some shit. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple. All right. So with that,
did you already thank Melissa and tell her that I'll reach out to Melanie and Andrea and see if we can put something together?
Yes. Thank you, Melissa, for your incredible generosity. And I have a feeling we'll be able to get that put together pretty quickly. Allie's like, we don't need to do goals on Delphi's because we get so many people. So I'm like, all right, I won't set a goal. Allie thinks she doesn't like the grifting portion of the goal. She's like, I just lean into grifting. I mean, if people think that us sharing our 20 plus years of trial work and our legal education is grifting, then Okay, I guess we're grifting then, but we think we bring value. So there's that. All right. Are you ready? You ready to
I
do that?
am.
Let's start. Okay. So this, Darren, is going to be exactly where the episode starts. Okay. Welcome to the docket presented by Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and this is our continuing coverage of the people of the state of Indiana versus Richard M. Allen. And I am joined by my beautiful and brilliant co-host, my favorite person in the world, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, y'all.
All right. So what we want to talk about tonight is we finally got a state response, which I expected once Judge Gull
A state response to what, sir?
the state response to the motion to preserve and produce specific evidence. So Judge Gull had recently filed a couple of orders, one where she denied the first motion to preserve and produce. However, she did not deny the second one, which is in relation to the Ricci Davis letters. Okay, so I knew at that point that she was expecting something in writing from Nick McClelland, who is the prosecutor in that case. And lo and behold, on the 28th of February, we got it. So it dropped. And it's
And before we get into the response, I just want to remind everybody some of the important details from the defense's motion. So the defense's motion is penned by Andrew Baldwin, and he discusses some meetings with Ricci Davis. Ricci Davis indicating that, darn it, I forgot his name. Kevin Klein, darn it. Indicating that Kevin Klein had made some admissions.
Keegan Klein.
Oh, Keegan Klein. Jeez.
What'd you call him? Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Keegan Klein had made some admissions to him about the unaliving of Abby and Libby. And in the motion, the defense indicates that Andy met with Klein on February 12th, 2025, at which point Mr. Ricci, Jesus. I shouldn't be allowed to talk. Let's just.
I mean, look, in your defense, we just recorded a very lengthy Garcia episode, which is now in the hands of our producer. Allie did a lot of heavy lifting. This is her first heavy lifting episode of the 65 that we have done in that particular series. So, babe, you get a big pass here.
Oh,
That's a lot. That's a lot. So just take a breath, relax. Do you want to throw the document up? Do you have it up in front of you, or are you just kind of giving us bullet points?
I do have it up in front of me. So,
because I agree. I think it's important for us it's been a minute since this thing was filed. So I think a frame of reference is always helpful.
All right. So again, on February 12th, Andrew Baldwin met with Ricci Davis at the Newcastle Correctional Facility. So Ricci Davis had been in the unique position of having met both Keegan Klein and Ron Logan during their stays at the Newcastle Correctional Facility. To try and summarize it as quickly as possible, Ricci talked to Logan about the Delphi murders on multiple occasions, and Logan confessed to his involvement along with two other people.
Now, wait, did we, I'm sorry, because you have it rather small, so I can't see it. Did we get a date as to when he was transferred into, or vice versa, that him and Klein were in the same pod? Okay. So yeah, March of 2024. All right.
No, in March of 20, right, correct. So
Yes.
In March of 2024, Keegan Klein was placed in the same general area as Ricci Davis. And at some point apparently learned that Ricci had talked to Ron Logan while Logan was incarcerated. So that is where that March comes into play. In any event, Logan prior to that had provided details to Ricci that only the killer would know, but never said who the other two people involved were. Over time, Klein began to question Ricci Davis about Davis's conversations with Logan and whether Logan ever mentioned to Klein. Oh, sorry. Jesus. Over time, Klein began began questioning Davis as to Davis's conversations with Logan and whether Logan had ever mentioned Klein's name to Ricci Davis during those conversations. So, in any event, it goes through how Ricci began to realize Klein and other members were involved, and that Klein began to reveal information about the unalivings that corroborated the details Logan had revealed before, and some additional details that Davis believed only the killers would know. So in any event, it, of importance is that Davis admitted that when he spoke to Andrew Baldwin, he didn't give him all the information because he wasn't sure whether or not back then Richard Allen was involved. And so he didn't disclose some of that. So that's something important to remember as we're looking over the response. Sorry. So Ricci had told Andrew Baldwin that he sent as many as 8 letters. We're going to see at least what the state cannot deny is that there are 3, and they've got evidence supporting that 3 were sent, although they only attached 2. And again, in their February 12th meeting, Ricci Davis admitted that on March 27th, back when he spoke to Attorney Baldwin, he didn't provide all the details because 1, he had not heard many of the details from Klein yet, and 2, he wasn't sure that Richard Allen wasn't one of the people involved. So based on what Andrew Baldwin is filing and stating in his filing, Ricci Davis has changed his tune, now believing, at least according to what Mr. Baldwin interprets from their meeting, now indicating that Richard Allen was not involved. And of significance is that Ricci Davis told Andrew Baldwin he's got to watch a March 27th. No, I'm sorry. When did he say that this videotaped interview?
He told him about it in March of 2024. So then Andy sent out an email to Nick saying, "Hey, I heard that there's this email or this video interview of Ricci Davis. Do you have it?" And then didn't hear anything back ever.
And it was years earlier. So that's what we know is that Ricci Davis told Andrew Baldwin that years earlier there was a videotaped interview with law enforcement. To date, that has not been come to fruition. The state has not turned that over nor admitted that they have it. And prior to the letters attached to the state's response, the defense had absolutely no letters or anything else from Ricci Davis. And again, on February 12th, Baldwin sent a letter to Nick McLeland and their investigator, the state's investigator, Steve Mullen, requesting they produce the letters and any video recording. And at the time of this filing, he had not gotten any response. But I think when he came on with us, Baby said that they said they turned over everything that they had. Is that accurate?
When who met with who?
When Andy Baldwin came on our show last, was that about him indicating that they claimed that they turned everything over?
No, at that point they were still waiting for a response to the motion. So he had not heard. He had sent an email out, the email that he discussed. He hadn't heard anything, crickets from McClelland's office. So we were all just kind of waiting on pins and needles to see how McClelland was going to handle this.
Okay, so now let's get to the response.
Okay. That was helpful. Thank you. Because I forgot those dates.
Use the one from the email, though.
What do you mean? I think
The
this
one from the court directly.
this is it, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So what we're looking at here is the state's response to the defendant's motion to preserve and produce specific evidence. So now comes the state of Indiana by and through prosecuting attorney Nick McClelland and respectfully ask the court to deny the defendant's verified motion to preserve and produce specific evidence and their motion to set this matter for hearing in their entirety. State would also ask the court to consider the following. One, that the court has already outlined in its February 14th, 2025 order that there is no authority for the defense to request that evidence be preserved by the state, and the state would ask the court to deny same. I mean, what do you think of that concept?
I think that the court's absurd and the state's absurd. I don't understand how the defense can have no ability to request the preservation of evidence. I mean, if the judge is saying they didn't cite to any law that allows them to do it, that's different than saying they don't have the right to do it. That seems ridiculous,
I
preposterous.
mean, do we live in a world in which prosecutors do not understand the appellate process exists in the world? And that by way of an appellate process, there exists the possibility that somebody can get a new trial. And in that new trial, what very well could happen is new attorneys or the same attorneys can request testing that wasn't done the first time. Maybe the technology or the science has advanced from the first time that the thing went to trial. There's many, many reasons why you preserve all the evidence. I mean, I don't know how it makes you all feel when you hear a prosecutor sit there and say, hey, I'm not going to preserve anything. Good luck. We're going to flamethrow it all. We're going to take it out to a big burn pit and just have a big old burn party and dance around like lunatics while we burn all the evidence in this case because, got the right guy. Good luck, y'all. I don't know, it's weird. I'm going to try not to lose my shit like I lost the other night with reading Brennan's thing. But I make no promises. Can't do it. Can't do it. So, number two, that the defense in their motion also states to produce or ask the state to produce specific evidence demonstrating exculpatory evidence for the defendant. Three, that the state has outlined this in previous filings, but discovery is evidence in a case that the state intends to use at trial or evidence that tends to exonerate the defendant, referred to as exculpatory evidence. Not all information gathered in an investigation is discovery. I mean, we could argue that point all night. It's like the concept of a prosecutor or law enforcement that has developed tunnel vision on one particular individual and they see things from their investigation, depending on the length of it. Like this, we know was a very, very lengthy investigation. It went on for 5-6 years. It really went on up until the point that Richard Allen was put on trial. What they may not think matters may very much matter to the defense because they haven't developed tunnel vision. They think that there's something that there could be something worth looking at. So why they wouldn't just turn it all over, or why McClelland believes that they don't have the obligation to turn it all over, is one thing. I mean, if you're talking about interviews with people that turn out to have nothing to do with the case, fine. But again, the fact still remains, how do you really know that they have nothing to do with the case? Because you really haven't done any other investigation. I mean, if you get like in this case, people are coming out of the woodwork. I get it. That becomes the defense's burden once you turn it over to them. They got to get through it all. If there's 14,000 tips, they got to go through all the tips. That becomes their responsibility to do so. And they have to determine, being the defense, whether or not it's of value, potentially. and whether or not there's potentially exculpatory discovery contained within those reports. So I take exception to that. 4, that most of what Ricci Davis told attorney Andrew Baldwin is false. 5, that attorney Andrew Baldwin had an opportunity to, quote, fact check the information that Ricci Davis provided him, but instead chose to put the information in a public motion without verifying his truthfulness. Now let's talk about that. What is he talking about? What do you think he's talking about, babe?
Well, in the next sentence, he talks about how he contacted the Department of Corrections and had them list out, all the outgoing mail from Ricci Davis. That is not something the defense has the ability to do. Defense counsel, I can't call up the jail and tell them I need, even for my own client, like a list of all of his mail, let alone some random inmate in the jail or the prison. Sorry, this is the Department of Correction in the prison. Can send a subpoena. It's going to take time, but to act like the defense has the same ability to contact the Department of Corrections, to contact a facility and be like, send this over to me right away, doesn't exist, not going to happen. And it's a disingenuous argument.
Or maybe McClellan has no clue. Either way, he shouldn't be writing it in motion. If he doesn't know, if he doesn't have an understanding, Nick was a defense attorney before he was a prosecutor. So Nick knew or should have known that you just can't call the DOC and say, hey, there's a dude that I heard is talking about my client. I need all the intel on that guy. Send it to me. Here's my email address. That does not happen. That is not how it works with us. We cannot do that. So I agree. It's completely disingenuous. 7, that as the court can see from the list, Ricci Davis did not send the 8 letters. He only sent 3 letters. How do we know?
So go to Exhibit 1.
Is it at the
Start
bottom?
by checking your email.
Okay. Wait, is it attached to this?
I doubt it.
Is this,
Oh, wait,
are these the exhibits?
Well,
I'm assuming.
Scroll up. This is not doing good for converting, but does it say? I mean, that's one of the exhibits. Is that the only page attached?
I mean, it's a 28-page. No, there's a bunch attached. The motions.
So yes, that's Exhibit 1. I didn't know you had them all attached already.
I got it, baby.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want to see?
That's Exhibit 1.
Okay. So this is from Newcastle Correction Facility. Okay. Which is where Ricci and Kagan Klein are both housed.
And bear in mind, the Department of Corrections doesn't, I mean, this is not like they've captured absolutely everything. We don't know if all of these letters were labeled as attorney mail or, what the case may be.
Well, I think at some point we see the envelopes.
Well, and the 2 that they attached, yes. But we're talking about them using this to establish that only 3 letters went.
Wait, hold on. All right, so here's one letter, right? So he sends a letter to Jill Denman, attorney, on 1/7 of 25.
That might be his lawyer. We don't know.
His lawyer then sends a letter to Huntington County Superior Court, clerk of court, on July 3rd of 2024. He then sends a letter to the clerk of the court, the U.S. Southern District Court, on July 1st of 2024. He then sends a letter to the U.S. Southern District, Birch Bayh. That was June 25th, 2024. He then sends another letter again to the U.S. Southern District Court. I'm assuming that's the judge in there, maybe. And then, or the AUSA. And that's on 6/25 of 2024. Sends one to attorney Jonathan Little, Syed Little LLC, and that's September 30th of 2024.
Can these have nothing to do with
Right.
Richard Allen?
I think he's showing these in order to show that he's sending all the information he has about letters that Ricci sent.
Correct.
So another one to the office of Syed Little, Jessica Wag attorneys, and that's November. And then here's the first one that we see from Ricci to McClelland, 10/15 of 24, right before trial, like right before trial. And then we've got another one that was sent prior to that on 10/4 of 2024, again to McClelland. Then we see a third one sent 10/21 of 2024, also to McClelland. And so now here he's got the does not appear to say legal mail anywhere.
And Bob's looking at the letter, which is Exhibit 2. We'll get to that when the motion goes into it.
Yeah, that's the envelope.
It doesn't identify itself as legal mail, although it is addressed to Nick
a
McClelland.
lawyer, right? Well, the prosecutor. All right, so okay, so we had 7 go on there. So that, as the court can see from the list, Ricci Davis did not send the 8 letters. He only sent 3 letters. 1 letter October 4, 1 letter October 15, and 1 letter October 21, 2024, all during or very near the trial of the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen.
And I think that's something that a hearing would be warranted for. First of all, give the defense an opportunity to establish that not all letters are recorded, that things, that things don't get documented there for every single letter, or how they document it, whatever the case may be. And also, obviously, to have Ricci Davis testify, since he's indicating to an officer of the court that he has sent more letters than what McClelland and the DOC have documented.
8, that the state was able to recover 2 of the 3 letters sent from Ricci Davis. The letter sent October 4th, 2025, and the letter sent October 21, 2025. Herein attached is Exhibits 2 and 3. Now, do you want to go to those?
I think that the motion is short. Let's get through it all, and then we'll read those letters in full.
Okay. So 9, that the letters sent by Ricci Davis are not exculpatory for Richard Allen and therefore are not evidence or discovery. That the letters, in fact, accuse Richard Allen of committing the murders. It is not exculpatory evidence for Richard Allen. It is inculpatory evidence for Richard Allen.
So I disagree. Even though they inculpate Richard Allen, and the letters do indicate that Keegan Kline informed Ricci that Richard Allen was involved, or whatever, we're going to see those letters. It implicates 2 other people. At least you've got one new person, Keegan Kline. I mean, new as far as a claimed confession by this person. It changes the timing, it changes the place, it changes what happened. This is exculpatory because you don't know what they're even going to say Richard Allen's involvement was. He's claiming that Richard Allen was somehow involved, but without knowing what Keegan Kline has to say about that involvement, you don't know if it rises to the level of, participation in the actual unaliving, knowledge of it beforehand. There are many things that could make this potentially exculpatory.
Well, and by the time we get to the letters, if you're to believe the letters and what they say, that it completely destroys the state's timeline. Like the things that he talks about Richard Allen doing are impossible because Richard Allen would have been home with Kathy at night. So it's like, but we'll get to those.
And by the way, I just want to note the request to preserve evidence is sort of over at this point. Well, at least as to those 2 letters, because they are preserved. They are now a part of the record by way of this response. But there are other letters that aren't accounted for here. But this does address their motion to preserve because the state is saying this is all we have, right or wrong. We lost it. Whatever the case may be, this is all we have. And now it is preserved. So I'm not sure, there's probably some inter-defense team discussions going on about whether there should be another motion now that they've got those letters, whether they should just let it go to appeal, and how they should handle this and what they should do moving forward, whether they should continue to flesh out the record in the lower court by asking for a hearing to bring in Ricci Davis and get on the record what actually was sent, since they don't have all of the letters or not. And I don't know, if there is a process. I know at some point we had talked to Michael, who does appellate work, about, or maybe Kara mentioned this as well, that they've got some process to do things like at the same time in Indiana where they don't here in Illinois, meaning like a post-conviction petition at the same time as an appeals pending, or they file and then stay the appeal, whatever the case may be. But, I suspect there could be some interdefense discussions about, do we continue to flesh out the docket here in the lower court, file something new, try to get a hearing where we get this all on the record, or let it go. But as far as just asking to preserve, this does preserve everything, at least that the state's claiming they have.
Which is big in this case in particular, because we have, obviously Gull is going to deny the hearing, and, she's going to deny the motion to preserve for the same reasons.
And all we are left with, as you'll see, and as this response indicates, is letters implicating Richard Allen, although implicating him in a completely different series of events than the state proffered.
Correct. So 10, that the letter dated October 4, 2025 is titled Information on Kagan Klein and Richard Allen. The letter goes on to implicate Richard Allen in the unaliving, stating that he set up the meeting with the girls. He is the one that unalived the youngest girl, and that once the girls were unalived, Richard Allen moved the bodies.
I forgot that it did say that he specifically unalived the youngest.
11, that in the letter dated October 21, 2025, Ricci Davis states that Ron Logan, Kagan Klein, and Richard Allen are responsible for the unalivings. He goes on to state that attorney Andrew Baldwin is an ignorant lawyer who was, quote, hinting me to lie for him and his client, saying that I should know how it is, end quote.
Obviously troubling facts that I think also warrant a hearing to find out what's going on. The question is that important given the motion that's pending before the court, the motion that the that the defense filed, which was to preserve this evidence.
12, that although the state has diligently searched all the evidence involved in this case, the state cannot locate or even verify that the second letter sent from Ricci Davis was received by this office. Checks in the mail. Got lost in the mail. I mean, we know, if we're to believe Exhibit 1, it would appear that the letter went out from the prison.
Right.
So 13, that James Winters did call the prosecutor's office. Now that's Ricci's uncle.
And the defense did amend this motion to produce and preserve evidence with an affidavit from James Winters indicating that he did call to make sure letters were received. And this specific paragraph sort of addresses that.
So that he did call the prosecutor's office on October 15th of 2025 and near October 21st, 2025 to verify that his office had received the letter sent by Ricci Davis. However, at that time,
I was just going to say it's a typo in the motion itself because it's obviously October of 2024.
Indeed. Unless this is Back to the Future.
I just didn't want people listening to think that we're saying the wrong date. It's that they have a typo in here and that they use 2025.
That's correct. However, at that time, he did not indicate how many letters that Ricci Davis sent or when he sent them. He just called to confirm that the state had received some letters from Ricci Davis. Is there the affidavit of the woman who took the call attached?
No, there is not, sir, nor is there an affidavit from the prosecutor actually, as far as I know, swearing to this under penalty of perjury.
Oh, so we got a little Hank Brennan action, except Hank does affidavits where he includes all the prosecutors in the case and they don't really swear to anything. So McClelland's just not swearing to anything under oath.
Seemingly no.
Okay. So further, he indicated to this office that both Kagan Klein and Ricci Davis had been subpoenaed by the defense to testify at trial against Richard Allen. 14, that the state's response to the motion to correct error, the state referred to the evidence that Ricci Davis supplied to Attorney Baldwin as not matching the physical evidence found at the scene. The state therefore finds the information that Ricci Davis supplied is not credible.
What an absurd statement, because everyone else, and most importantly, the defense, finds that the state's theory of the case does not match the evidence at the scene. I'm not sure why he thinks only his interpretation of the evidence at the scene matters for the purposes of an exculpatory evidence or potentially exculpatory evidence argument or production. No matter how you look at this, this is a discovery violation. This had to be turned over, whether or not it is exculpatory. His understanding of discovery, that I only have to turn over what I'm going to use at trial, or what I, in my personal opinion, find to be exculpatory, that is not the law. That is not the law. If it is something that is favorable to the defense, they have to turn it over. Case law has evolved to include allows for further investigation to discover exculpatory information. All of that is not dependent on what he personally thinks the scene says, and whether based on the state's theory of what the scene says and what the evidence says is the only thing that's exculpatory, because there's a defense theory, obviously, and anything about the scene that speaks to that is also exculpatory.
Super true. All of what you just said is absolutely true, because I think you were getting a drink and I was talking about that. The state's timeline is the state's timeline. If you've got something that is, number one, inculpating somebody other than Richard Allen, and number two, creates an entirely different timeline, there exists no world in which that shouldn't have been turned over to the defense at all.
That's going to sound good on the podcast.
The guy, everybody loves dogs. 15, that there is zero evidence found in the investigation that Ron Logan and Kagan Klein knew each other or shared or exchanged child P. 16, that the state was able to obtain recent communications between Kagan Klein and various civilians, where Kagan Klein denies the allegations set out by Ricci Davis. Herein attached, the state's Exhibit 4.
And we will read all those to you as they have been produced and attached to this response.
17, that further, in these text communications, Kagan Klein states that Ricci Davis, quote, is an idiot. I've only talked to him maybe 2 times. He's one of those guys in prisons that tries to write all the different prosecutors and get time cuts on people's cases. It's laughable, end quote. Kagan reiterates this point in several of the responses that he
So now anything Kagan Klein says is true, assuming that he did. Let's just presume that he did confess to somebody, and the fact that he denies it in a text from prison on a prison monitored device somehow is, substantive evidence here. It's very compelling.
I mean, that the court can see from State's Exhibit 1, Ricci Davis did send several other letters out to the attorneys, which adds credence to the statements that Kagan Klein made about Ricci Davis's behavior. 19, that attorney Andrew Baldwin could have requested this information from the Department of Corrections to verify or debunk Ricci Davis's statements before he made his filing, but chose to file the motion without verifying the allegations. No, Nick, he couldn't have done that.
No, Nick. No.
Sorry, Nick.
No.
Couldn't do it. Not gonna do it. 21. 20. That attorney Andrew Baldwin, by his own admissions, interviewed Ricci Davis on March 27th, 2024.
And again, he indicated in regards to that Ricci Davis provided very limited information, which coincides with what Ricci is saying, that he believed at that point Richard Allen to possibly be involved. So he did not disclose everything to Attorney Baldwin.
Okay, so 21, that Attorney Andrew Baldwin had every opportunity before trial to depose Ricci Davis and had every opportunity to call him as a witness at any hearing or at the trial and chose not to. In fact, from James Winter's statements to this office, Andrew Baldwin had in fact subpoenaed Ricci Davis to testify at the trial for Richard Allen.
Now, I mean, that is an issue. He could have deposed him before trial based on it sounded like Ricci Davis told him and that back in April of March of 2024, that there was a recorded interview of him with the police. There are other people whose recorded interviews were missing that the defense did choose to depose and actually did depose. So I'm not sure why Ricci Davis was not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my best guess is because when Baldwin went to visit him on the 24th of March or whatever date it was in 2024, he was very clear that Ricci Davis didn't want to talk to him. You know, he said he was very, very short, very terse. He's like, I did an interview, dude. You know, and we know that at that point, Ricci Davis thought that Richard Allen was involved, whether it was just from reading the paper or watching the news or whatever, or whether it was from Ron Logan telling him something, or whether it was who knows, but I mean, at that point in a truncated period of time where you've decided to run on a speedy demand, you got to pick and choose your poison. You know
True.
what I mean? And this guy at that point in time did not appear to be helpful at all. So 22, that Attorney Andrew Baldwin now wants to present these statements from Ricci Davis as irrefutable proof without any evidence or corroboration to back up the statements.
No, he wants you to disclose and produce the letters that you got, the evidence that you had in your possession that should have been disclosed. That's what he wants.
23, that Ricci Davis's statements to Attorney Andrew Baldwin do not match the statements that he made in the letters that he sent to the state. In those letters, he does not say that Richard Allen is innocent or not involved. Quite the opposite. He says that Richard Allen participated in the unalivings and is guilty. 24, the evidence that contains allegations that the defendant is guilty with no proof of those allegations is not exculpatory evidence and therefore does not have to be turned over to the defense. What do you think of that?
I think that I've already addressed that, and I disagree because, it points to two other people being involved. The defense's theory is that some of what Logan or Klein said might be true, that they were involved, and some not be, or some of what Ricci Davis is saying might be true or might not be. But he's got facts, at least some facts, that only the killer would know. I mean, that's the same exact facts that the state said that Richard Allen knew. And even though Richard Allen got a lot of facts wrong, they were shot, all of the things that he said that were not accurate, the state still relied on the parts that they deemed to be accurate. So how he thinks that that's not exculpatory, maybe it's not, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It's surely most undeniably discovery violation. It needed to be turned over. And I think that it is favorable to the defense. That's what exculpatory means. It is favorable to the defense. It is not in this, confined definition that the state is trying to fit it in, that it's got to literally prove his innocence. No, that's not the case. It has to be material and it has to be favorable. So,
and blowing up the timeline as to Richard Allen is 100% favorable. It just is.
Absolutely.
I don't care what he's saying about his involvement. The fact that he's saying it at a time frame that Richard Allen could not have been involved blows up the timeline. Therefore, it most certainly is favorable. It's at least arguable that it's favorable, and it requires the state to turn it over.
Now, on the other side of things, you've got these text messages from Keegan Kline saying, I never said that to him. I've only talked to him twice. And if the judge is going to say, well, even if they disclosed it, it's clear that if he got on the stand, he was going to say, nope, never said any of that, never talked to the guy, and she wasn't going to let it in anyway. So,
all right. So if we're to weigh between Ricci Davis and Keegan Kline, and I think that it is pronounced Keegan Kline. I don't think it's Keegan. I used to pronounce it that way. Somebody's like, oh, he pronounces it Keegan. So that's what I've gone with. So, but if you're to compare these two people with things that we can actually prove that have happened, okay, Keegan Kline said, hey, yeah, I know that there's a weapon and a phone in the Wabash River because we threw them in there and they're related to the crime. So, they spent $1 million or something and went and dragged the river. They didn't find anything that matched what he was saying. So in terms of things that we've heard him say and put out there that could have been proven to be true, was proven not to be true. Now, the things that we know that Ricci Davis has said, at least to a certain extent, is that, hey, I mailed letters to the prosecutor and my uncle called to find out whether or not he got them. Now, those have been proven to be true. So out of two felons who both arguably could have a reason to lie in terms of trying to shave time off, like why Keegan Kline would say any of the things that he's said over the past years, I have no idea. It's inexplicable to me. But in terms of evidence where we're talking about, hey, I did something, I'm telling you I did something, and then they were able to check it out and it was proven to be true, Ricci Davis is ahead in the we're a liar game or this guy's a full of shit game. Because everything that I've ever heard come out of Keegan Kline's mouth has been bullshit. I've never heard anything that guy has said that was true, except when I think he pled out to the fact that he's a disgusting pervert who keeps child pee all over his phones and all kinds of devices. That's the only time I've ever known him to be true, is when he pled out on his cases and got sentenced. All right, so 25. Oh, wait, 24, that the evidence that contains allegations the defendant is guilty with no proof of those allegations is not exculpatory evidence and therefore does not have to be turned over to the defense. Now, we just rejected that in the whole. So 25, that there is not a video interview of Ricci Davis that exists within discovery or is within the state's possession. That even if this was evidence the defense wished to use at trial, it was not newly discovered evidence. The defense knew of Ricci Davis, had interviewed him, had subpoenaed him for trial, and chose not to present the evidence to court.
well, they didn't know about these letters.
They didn't know about the letters. And again, it's like Baldwin went and met with the guy, and the guy wasn't a friendly at all.
And didn't disclose any of the information that he disclosed on February 12th. So,
well, at that point, he thought Allen was involved.
right.
Or could be involved. He thought he might be the third person, according to what he says later. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of problems with the Ricci Davis letters. There just are. I mean, it's wildly inconsistent with what he's writing prior to what he says after the fact, after the trial, mind changed or not. But it certainly puts into, question anything that he may have stated in those original letters, because they're pretty pretty definitive in what he's saying. He's either coming up with a fanciful lie regarding Richard Allen, or Keegan Kline is one of the two of them, or both of them. And that is in complete contradiction to what he ends up telling Baldwin later. No matter what his reason for changing his opinion was, you still have this problem of him claiming that he got this information prior to. So, I mean, the weight that you give it is exactly that, which is not much. However, the fact is that does not stop this from having to have been tendered to the defense, because the bottom line is, again, those letters are favorable to Allen, no matter what he's saying that Allen's involvement was, because the timeline doesn't match what the state is claiming happened. That alone creates a window in which the defense can investigate and try to
Right.
sniff something out. All right. So further, as the state has mentioned in previous responses, any information pertaining to Ron Logan or Kagan Klein falls under the state's motion to eliminate concerning third-party motive. What? The defense had 3 days to present evidence to meet their burden for third-party motive. They mentioned Ron Logan, but failed to meet their burden with this court. They chose not to present this evidence in that hearing. They also did not present the evidence when they renewed their motion during the trial. This now seems to be an effort by the defense to use this motion to circumvent their burden concerning the third-party motive. I think more what it is now, Nick, is to make an appellate record.
Well, and also they didn't have the letters. They still don't have the third letter. And so they didn't, how could they at trial? Because I was going to say, well, first of all, it doesn't matter what they did at their hearing. That is a preliminary ruling. That is a preliminary ruling, a motion in limine. You don't, it's not like it's foreclosed. You have the chance to present additional evidence at trial and then say, all right, now I've met my, I've met my burden. Or they could have made a motion and included some of this, but they needed the ability to have it, investigate it, see if they could find anything, further from it. But yeah, it's just the fact that the judge forbade them from mentioning it doesn't change the fact that they could have been favorable to the defense had they been able to change the judge's mind. I mean, but as you're going to see from the letters that we have here, it's not it does implicate Richard Allen, at least if you are to believe what is said, or that is even what was said by by Kagan Klein to Ricci Davis in the first place.
Aside from the timeline, of course, which is a major problem.
Right.
Okay, so that none of the evidence that the state has gathered from Ricci Davis is exculpatory, nor is it discovery. Okay.
Definitely discovery.
Asked and answered, Nick. Said that 3 times already, man.
And now he's throwing in it's not even discovery. And he thinks it's not discovery because he wasn't going to use it. That's absurd.
29, that this motion seems yet another attempt by attorney Andrew Baldwin to push a certain narrative to the public, specifically the online world. He seems to file these types of motions with very bold allegations that he neither verifies the information nor does he present any evidence to back up the statements. Neither do you, Nick. Even at trial. That it is unfortunate that motions by the defense in this case have come to the point where they present statements from an inmate as fact without any legal or evidentiary support. It's kind of like your motion here that doesn't have an affidavit attached to it. Saying lots of things, but not swearing to anything under penalty of perjury. So, wherefore, the state of Indiana prosecuting attorney Nick McClelland respectfully requests this court deny the defendant's motion in its entirety without a hearing and for all other just and proper relief.
And here's their affirmation.
The state affirms under the penalty of perjury that the above and true is correct and accurate to the state's knowledge.
So that's
state's knowledge.
That's sufficient.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to look at the letters that Ricci Davis sent, the 2 that the state had produced. I can't help but find it highly suspicious that this third has just disappeared. And, we'd need to hear from Ricci Davis whether or not there was more and what those letters said. But before you start reading this first letter.
We tried to see if Sleuthy had had transcribed this thing. I imagine somebody out there did that, but
I think I forgot to ask her, by the way.
What? Why? Because she didn't answer your last text? Wow.
And then she did.
Salty. Wow. All right. I'm going to have to struggle bus through it.
But before you
Regarding-
read it, go to the bottom and give us the date on the envelope that it was mailed.
Okay. Wait, I think we passed the first envelope, or is this
This is
a
the first.
cover?
This
Is
is
this
the
a
first.
cover? I think this is the envelope, honey.
Nope. Scroll up.
What do you mean?
Okay. Sorry.
This is the envelope.
Oh, the second one, the envelope's at the end. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is presumably, we have no proof of this, obviously, because, Ricci Davis doesn't date his letters. So this envelope that he's saying that this letter came in is dated October 4 of 2024. So regarding the Delphi unalivings, information on Kagan Klein and Richard Allen. Dear Chief Prosecutor, my name is Ricci Davis, inmate number there. I am incarcerated at the Newcastle Correction Facility. I wasn't comfortable writing for fear of not being taken serious. However, this has to be heard. There are several aspects that at first may seem all over the place. However, if I don't explain it all, you'll get confused. So forgive me. I'll do my best here. Back some years ago, a man named Ron Logan came here to Newcastle, and does he say I daily conversated with him, and a lot of things he opened up about made my ex-girlfriend contact the FBI, trying to do the right things, to say the least. Fast forward until now, today. There are also have been another guy who was transferred here from another prison back in early March of 2014. I'm guessing he means 2024, by the name of Kagan Klein. For the last 6 months, he seemed to need a friend and quickly, can you read that? You know what that says? Quickly,
Very recklessly.
very recklessly began to talk of beating the system, and glad that it is Richard Allen who is caught up. However, feared he would run his mouth. So there's your first implication regarding Richard Allen being involved.
Right. And Kagan Klein indicating that he is fearful that Richard Allen's going to start running his mouth. He thought he beat the system, but now he's fearful Richard Allen is going to run his mouth.
So now we've got a footnote, a Ricci Davis footnote.
With an asterisk.
It's impressive. I am in a protective custody unit with 98% child emmers and trust. What do you think that is?
And trust me, the
Trust
people
me, the people speak and brag on their cases as it is I guess
as if it is a cool thing.
as is a cool thing, he wrote. But I am here on drug charges. However, King Klein assured, is that assured?
Assumed
Yeah.
I must.
Oh, assumed I must have a sex case and began talking, and I slowly took the information as he appeared to build trust with me. Quote, oddly, since an earlier report by my ex-girlfriend was made regarding Mr. Logan, out of nowhere, this lawyer pops up to visit me, Richard Allen's lawyer, Baldwin or something, wanting to know if I would come testify on Richard Allen's behalf regarding Logan. I told him no, because I already planned on contacting you, knowing the information to do with Klein. I never told him about Klein because the information involved Richard Allen, Keegan Klein, and Ron Logan, although he is now passed on, as you know. I will now explain what Klein has told me, and I'll share the evidence he informed me of. So you see, I'm doing this in good faith. Keegan Klein told me that him and his dad were working what is that?
Hustle.
Oh, a hustle from this back page, making big money from child images. Every 6 months, they bought burner phones for clients, and Rick Allen and Logan were two of them, and received new phones from Keegan. So, from what I was told, they've done a lot of trading too. I am told They all had their hands in this unaliving or unalivings, and feels. What do you think?
Relieved someone has the fall.
Relieved that someone has the fall who isn't going to talk. This Allen guy sold a firearm to Kagan for these burner phones he supplied. Kagan somehow had the Abby girl victim take pictures of herself and traded them between the three, Allen, Kagan, and Logan. Allen set up the meeting with the girls. Allen set up the meeting the girls with Logan. However, they met at Logan's home drinking. Logan and Kagan met up with the girls as Allen was on the farm. Kagan had the firearm, and Logan had a carpet knife to scare the girls.
Now, that is of significance because that's one of the facts that, the state claimed that Richard Allen knew by saying it was a box cutter, which I'm assuming that's what a carpet knife is, the same type of knife as a box cutter.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is something that the medical examiner claimed at trial, that it just dawned on him, you know what? I don't think it was two knives anymore. Now I just think it was a box cutter held at different angles.
Right.
And this is long before that came out, before there was any public release of any information that Allen ever allegedly said anything about a box cutter or anyone said anything about a box cutter.
Okay. So they walked the girls back to the house.
Wait, Kagan had the firearm and Logan had the
Yeah, I
carpet
read that.
to
Kagan had
scare
the
the
firearm and had the carpet knife to scare the girls. They walked the girls back to the house where Allen watched or waited. I was unsure.
Well, now there's a PS at the
I know, but like I read that's a postscript.
Oh, so you're gonna save it till the end. Okay.
Seems like it'll be out of order now. I was unsure about the story being a lot of details. However, I pretended interested over time. Here's some details only the killers would know. And what do you think that is? Maybe yourself. So you can weigh the information out. He informed me, him and Allen
moved the bodies three times.
You want to read it?
Yeah, moved the bodies 3 times, and they were not killed. Sorry, said it already. Where the girls were found. He said they staged the scene, whatever that means. The youngest girl was kept alive longer, and Allen didn't want to unalive her, but Kagan made him because it was too late. He said that they all got nervous leaving town in their own cars out to the Lafayette to get rid of evidence.
That. Yeah.
I honestly don't see him making this up. However, if it appears he did for some sick reason, just disregard this letter. If by chance it seems to meet the evidence you are dealing with, you are welcome to come speak with me.
I mean,
wait,
it does kind of meet. I mean, Ron Logan, his alibi was he went to Lafayette.
And didn't he have something about being with his father or no?
No, it was like a cousin that he got to lie about driving him.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant Keegan Kline. Did he have, what was his?
Well, I mean, the thing that we heard at the 3 days of hearings was that him and his dad took that I can't remember if they said it was a Jeep, but they said it was a red kind of SUV. They drove it out there, a red truck, drove it out there onto the private drive, that his dad got out of the vehicle, left him back there. An hour later, his dad comes back all bloody. And that's when they make hay out of there and then dump the stuff in the Wabash River.
And then they decided that Keegan Kline just made that up.
Well, they went and searched the Wabash River.
Oh, so they couldn't find it, so it didn't happen.
Well, what they said at the hearings is they found all kinds of knives and guns in the river, but none of them match what he was saying. Which, what are we talking about? What happens if Kagan Klein doesn't know, a 9 caliber from a 45? What happens if the guy's never held a gun in his entire life? Like, I don't know. All right, so sincerely yours. Take care. Lena, let's go back up to the PS.
Wait, there was more?
Oh, there was?
Did you read the part that I only want to talk to
Wait,
you?
this is
No,
another
scroll up
letter.
to the last. You read that?
Oh, no, I
Be
didn't.
honest. To be honest, I'm only comfortable speaking with you for the moment. Please understand, no, the snitch talk is real in prison. However, I will talk to you for the time being. Sincerely yours, take care, Ricci Davis, with his address. Now go ahead to the postscript.
Okay. Postscript. I also saved a note from Kagan. He wrote on lockdown that don't say a lot, but he talks a little bit in it. What's that say?
Well, something.
Well, something if you can want.
Let me know.
Okay.
Some of that is illegible, but something about if they want, let them know. Now, the second letter is stamped received October 23rd,
Yeah, so this one was not stamped.
2024. And the envelope, keep
Do you want me
going,
to go down?
is stamped October
21st.
21st. Now, the first day of trial was October 18th. That was opening statements. So trial is underway.
Right. All right. You want to read it?
Sure.
Give it a shot.
Dear Mr. McClelland, if you will look back on record, the same information now being released, the evidence, I done reported. I reported that the girls were cut up and their throats cut back in 2018. I reported the girls were moved and hidden in a barn and drove around until babe, why don't you read because you're not scrolling?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I reported that the girls were moved and hidden in a barn and drove around until the search started. I reported that Mr. Logan left town, leaving the girls with 2 others until he got back because Logan got nervous. Recently, as I previously wrote, I learned now the last 5 months who else were involved. You have one of them. That would obviously be the seemingly Richard Allen and Kagan Klein. If I ever had 5 minutes, if I even had 5 minutes to explain, you would see that all 3 are involved. I offered the detective who come to see me in 2018 just to put a wire on and let them conclude for themselves what all Logan was saying. They declined.
McClelland, they declined.
McClelland, they declined the offer, which makes no sense when it was a perfect opportunity, as it is a perfect investigation tool for 2 reasons. First, it would provide information from the source and to eliminate of misinformation, as the reality of trusting inmates' credibility is within danger zone. I get it. The problem was the detective and the examiner come with the mindset of not willing to believe me before I even spoke. I have a disability of Tourette's syndrome, as it provokes my nervous system. I take several medications for treatment, and they gave me no chance to explain these facts. That's the reason I just simply offered to just wear a wire on and allow it to be recorded. Fast forward, I was visited by Attorney Baldwin, who was representing Richard Allen, about 2.5 months ago. Now, that is inconsistent with what is in Andy Baldwin's motion. He says there was a very brief meeting back in March. And if you may recall from our interviews with Andy Baldwin, he's got quite the mind for dates and times. So I'm going to say also all people that come to visit someone in the Department of Corrections, there is a recording, a documented who comes in and who they are visiting. Babe, take over.
Okay. So I didn't know who he was. However, he stated he was investigating past reports and my name came up. He informed me that the information I gave in 2017 aligned with actual evidence of the unaliving scene. He asked me if I would come to testify at this trial. I told him no. And the reason was knowing that his client, Kagan Klein, and Ron Logan are all involved. Long story short, I wasn't going to help because I was planning on reporting the information to your office. Mr. McClellan, this ignorant lawyer was hinting me to lie for him and his client, saying, quote, that I should know how to do, I should know how it is, end quote. Please hear me out. No, I can never relate to child K's. I don't know what planet this attorney is on. It felt insulting in a way. He indicated this occult issue. He is far from right because Klein told me they staged the scene because Ron knew they were coming after him, because by the time they were unalived, the police was everywhere and through the night, and there was no way to get the girls out of that area. I hope that we can speak because although Logan has passed away, the other two need to face the consequences. I've been afraid that I'm not taken serious and Kagan will somehow get off and not see his day in court. I pray wholeheartedly you'll allow me to explain everything so you can compare the information to validate. I don't expect to be believed. However, you compare the information. Thank you. And as I promised, I would send the note Kagan wrote, and I'll send it with this. Take care, Ricci Davis, boopity boop.
So strikingly, what is not included with this letter is the letter that Ricci Davis included from Kagan Klein. So that is completely absent. Where is it? What did it say?
It's interesting. All right. So these are some inmate comprehensive message reports. So these are dated 2/14, due 14, 2/14 of 2025. Incoming inmate Kagan Klein, inmate Kagan Klein, inmate Kagan Klein. Credits, the last of them, and Ricci Davis. So here's 10. I'll send the other 4 separately as the first message. The second message, here's the rest, I guess, referring to credits, the last of them. And then this last one is a communication, or not the last one, but the next one is a communication to Ricci Davis.
Give us a date.
And again, these are all on 2/14 of 25. We wanted to reach out to see, so we know who this is. It's a podcast.
Or I'd assume.
We wanted to reach out to see if you had heard the most recent filing in the Richard Allen case. One of Allen's attorneys claims that he spoke with Ricci Davis and that Ricci Davis talked to him about you. According to Davis, you made comments to him indicating that you were involved in the M's and that Ron Logan was too, and that you had info only the killers would know. Do you have any comment on this? So on 2/15, this is another incoming.
Wait, so give us the time of each.
At 6:30 p.m.
So the first one that you read was actually later in time. That's 10:27 p.m.
No, it was on the day before. So 2/14, Valentine's Day at 10:27 p.m. The podcasters message Kagan Klein regarding Ricci Davis. On 2/15 at 6:30 p.m., they then message Kagan Klein again with the kind of the memo line. You are mentioned in legal filing. So, hi, Kagan. I'm not sure if you were talking to anyone who keeps you updated about when you were being mentioned in legal filings, but on February 14th, Richard Allen's defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin, filed a motion that referenced you being involved in the Delphi unalivings. February 12, 2025, Baldwin met with Ricci Davis, inmate who previously talked about Ron Logan confessing to him. Davis told Baldwin he met both Kagan Klein and Ron Logan at Newcastle. Logan confessed to being involved in the Delphi unalivings with two other people, but never said who they were, although he revealed details only the killer would know. March of 2024, KK was placed near Davis, and KK asked if Logan mentioned KK's name, and Davis began to realize KK may have been one of the other two killers. KK revealed details of the unalivings that corroborated details Logan told Davis that only the killers would know. These conversations continued until Richard Allen was found guilty in November of 2025. And KK told Davis he was relieved that he would no longer be a suspect. KK told Davis that Richard Allen was not the third killer and that Allen was not involved in the unalivings of Abby and Libby. KK told Davis that he knew Ron Logan from trading CSAM, which you can figure that out, and sharing burner phones, and would meet every 3 to 6 months to show Logan how to use the phones. That's it. Baldwin filed the motion because he said Allen's defense never received 8 letters Ricci Davis sent or said he sent to Nick and Cleland, the prosecutor, or a videotaped police interview of Davis that the defense could have used that information to show Ron Logan and you were involved in the unalivings and Richard Allen is innocent. Is this stuff true? How would you describe Ricci Davis? Is he unreliable, making stuff up? Apparently, he took a polygraph about what Ron Logan confessed to and failed miserably. Some of the details were included in a court filing and did not match up to the case crime scene facts. Thanks. So on February 16th of 2025 at 4:01 p.m., there's another incoming to King and Klein, just saying, hey, just a heads up. Holly is back at it and she plans on contacting you to get details. You're a grown man. Just know anything that you say will be shared online. The next day, 2/17 at 2025 at 10:11 a.m., there's an outgoing to Kagan Klein from Ricci Davis.
No,
No,
regarding Ricci Davis. So that's in response to the email that went or the message that went to him that said Ricci Davis that you had indicated was a podcaster asking a question.
Okay, so that dude is an idiot. I've only talked to him maybe 2 times, and he's one of those guys in prison that tries to write all different prosecutors and get time cuts on people's case. It's laughable. He also pimps himself out for commissary and drugs. He's a complete loser and drug addict. 2/17, 10:28 a.m., outgoing, Klein, you are mentioned in legal filing. So that's in response. Again, laugh aloud. That's so funny. He's so stupid. If anyone who could see who Ricci really is, he writes a bunch of prosecutors on people's cases saying a bunch of lies to get a time cut. I've talked to the dude maybe 2 times. Police know I had nothing to do with that shit, and I have no clue who Ron Logan was until people told me. Ricci goes by Ghost. He's a drug addict loser, the worst person in prison. Really? He pimps himself out for commissary and pills. I wish I would have known all this when he was here. LOL. I needed a good laugh. Thank you. Hope all is good with you and the fires in LA. Be safe. Be safe, man, and have a good one. Another outgoing on the same day. A few minutes later at 10:32 a.m. Hey, yeah, I'm not worried about
This is in response to the message that was captioned, hey.
Right. Yeah, I'm not worried about her. LOL. Thanks for the heads up. I've gotten so many messages about Ricci. It's so funny. That dude is such a joke. 2/18, 2025, incoming to Kagan regarding Ricci Davis. Yeah, we had trouble believing Ricci Davis's story because it didn't sound realistic for you to just go up to this guy and start saying stuff like that. Didn't make any sense. Just didn't sound like something you would do. You mentioned
Like
you
they
men
know what he would do.
right, well, you know, they're they have their finger on the pulse of humanity. They know all things. You mentioned talking to him twice. Did he ask you about Delphi? Do you remember what you talked about with him? How do you feel about getting dragged back into this? Long shot. But do you know of any prosecutors he's written to, people whose cases he's worked on? No worries if not. Just figured we'd ask. Are there other people who might be willing to write us about Reese Davis if we reached out to them? We will probably talk about this on our show. Is there anything else that you feel we should know about him in this story he is telling about you? You should also know he is saying that you told him that you would meet with Ron Logan every few months to help him access child essay materials. Do you know Ron Logan at all? So then we've got 218 at 8:40 p.m. So same day, another incoming. And this is from the Hey. She didn't say much about him. She posted online that your dad was giving you 5K at a time to keep quiet. And then when you got a subpoena, you had her call Rosie and tell him if they transported you, you would plead the fifth. Aside from that, KC lost the Super Bowl. I was so bummed. LOL. Random, I know. So 9 minutes later at 8:49 on 218, another incoming. Responding to the "you are mentioned in legal filing." I appreciate you clearing that up. It was scary with the fires and the winds were so fast that embers were floating several miles. And normally residential neighborhoods are immune to mass fire destruction, but the winds took it to an uncontrollable level. I had to evacuate for a few hours, but my neighborhood is fine. But I know a few people who lost their homes and everything inside. Makes me thankful for the little I have. Thank you. 219 at 2:22 p.m. So the following day, outgoing regarding Reese Davis. No, I'm not sure, but I know it was about a unaliving in Michigan City years ago. Yeah, I talked to him about my lawsuit against ISP due to me getting stabbed. And no, I don't know anyone that would talk. Everyone feels the same about him, though. He is a joke. No, I didn't know Ron Logan or anything about that case. If I did, I wouldn't be in prison for 43 years over a few pictures. I lost my best friend, being my dad, over all the lies all these people have said about me, about him, and it's crazy. I hate being brought back into all this stuff, especially over the most outlandish lies you can imagine. 219, 3:58 p.m. So same day, hour something later, incoming Kagan Klein. Hi. Well, it appears you were in the spotlight again. LOL. 2:20 the following day at 9:42 a.m. Outgoing from Kagan. To the hi, responding. Yeah, it's so stupid. I can't believe they're putting all this stuff on the news when it's not even true. I wish I could see how stupid this guy is. LOL. I've talked to him maybe 2 times, and it was about me getting stabbed in my lawsuit. It's insane. Hope you're doing good. We're getting our new tablets next week, thank God. Great to hear from you. Hope you message me more often. That's it. There you go.
So, I mean, at least what's out there right now is you know, not what I think the defense was expecting those letters to entail. Um, and I don't know that there's anything the judge is going to do again because the motion pending is to produce and preserve those letters from Reese Davis. And these are the only letters that the state is claiming that they have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, I anticipate that Gull will deny everything, you know, both the request for the hearing as well as the, um, request to preserve. Those will both be denied. And then, at that point, she'll, in her mind, be, wash her hands of it. Whether or not the defense is going to file anything else is unknown. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. Um, I mean, what do you make of all this, babe?
I mean, I pretty much have said everything that I make of it right now. I mean, yeah, it's disappointing that these are the letters that the states produced. Um, but according to the defense's filing, Ricci Davis had changed his mind, and he's claiming that Kagan Klein specifically told him that Richard Allen was not the third person involved.
I mean,
But
how do you weigh that with those letters, though? Like, how do you like? I mean, can you trust anything the guy says at this point? Probably
I don't
not.
know.
You know, but again, I don't think that you have to try to argue that Ricci Davis is a liar because clearly he's incredibly inconsistent. However, the fact of the matter is this isn't about that in as much as it's about the fact that McClelland didn't turn them over.
Right.
You know, you can't get caught up in the language from Ricci Davis or Kagan Klein. Like whatever they're saying, you take it with the appropriate weight. The bottom line here is that McClelland was in possession of 2 letters that he's admitting to getting, and a third letter, which strangely we didn't get. And he didn't turn it over. You know, and
Right.
it's a problem. So, I mean, how it's going to shake out, I don't know. I really don't. You know, do I think that these things are going to be the linchpins of the appeal? Absolutely not. I think that there's other issues. I think that what you have is just a pattern from the state wherein they just were not forthcoming. You know, evidence was destroyed, whether it was intentional or by accident. I don't know. Unfortunately, there's no chain of custody. There was no metadata provided for us to be able to figure out how that happened, when it happened, who caused it to happen. And
What are we talking about?
I'm
The
talking about all the lost interviews from the first 3 days of the investigation and the other lost interviews from later on in the investigation. It's
Right. Now you've got this lost interview of Ricci Davis saying that Ron Logan confessed to him.
yeah, I mean it's you know, like in I don't does Nick McClelland not understand how pleadings in a court case, in a criminal case in particular work? Like
Well, I'd venture to guess that Judge Gull is going to reiterate exactly what McClelland's says. That's, if I had to guess, that's what's going to happen here.
yeah. No, I mean, look, at this point, it's a wait and see proposition. I guess we'll have to wait and see if the defense files anything as far as um, the fact that I'm a little surprised the defense didn't file a Brady motion. I mean, if you're going to intimate, I mean, now that it's been shown that McClelland had this stuff and didn't turn it over, you take the shot.
Right. But it's letters. All we have so far are letters that still implicate Richard Allen. And I understand your point. It changes the timeline, you know.
Changes all the facts. It's got, Kagan Klein's the guy on the bridge with the gun. I mean, clearly that photograph of Bridge Guy is not Kagan Klein because Kagan Klein, I don't know how much he weighs, but it's a hell of a lot more than that guy that they have on the bridge. So, it's tough to know. It's tough to know, but this in no way impacts the appeal. This is still, remember, this is in the lower court still. Like this is still dealing with Gull. Once it gets to the appellate level, it's a different ball game. And obviously I'm extremely anxious for those briefs to get filed. That's going to take a while because they've got to put this record together, you know, and it's one of those things where, we're looking at 8 to 12 months before we're probably on a live reading and a brief from Allen's two appellate attorneys. So, but will it be quiet in the interim? I don't know. I doubt it. It's a case that never sleeps. So, you know, um, it's it's just disappointing that the government is yeah, like in my opinion, we've seen enough, not just in this case, but Reed and just other cases. I mean, if we all don't know at this point that the government is not to be trusted, that all that concerns them are convictions, no matter what. I mean, I don't know how much you have to see in order for that to kind of sink in. If you're kind of a pro-government lackey, for me, I saw it from the inside from for a long, long time. So, clearly I have a pretty firm grasp on that concept. And it's scary. It really is. It really, really is. So, all right, we're gonna wrap for the evening. Um, I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna do tomorrow. I think that they're supposed to be in court tomorrow for Reed. If not, or if that ends up being short, I think what we'll do is pivot over to back over to Mullis. I saw some stuff in the chat. And I definitely want to cover Mullis. I think Mullis is absolutely something that we need to be covering. It's a rare thing to see streamed. You just don't see post-conviction relief stuff being streamed ever. I don't know that I've ever seen it. So I definitely want to do that. So, all right, let me give a few thank yous out. I think we gave love to the first few. Papa George, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I agree. She's like the picture of Dorian Gray. She never seems to age. I'm a lucky guy. JD, thank you. Appreciate you. I don't understand why it's even necessary to request for evidence to be saved. It seems like a no-brainer, let alone deny the request. WTF. Agreed. It's inexplicable. Thank you for that. Jamie Dawn, do you really trust the search of the Wabash River considering what we know of the investigation? I answered in chat, but the answer to that is unequivocally no. I don't trust any part of this investigation. Anything that was being conducted by the Unified Command, I don't trust. And that's basically because it was a sloppy investigation and they had tunnel vision at some point when Allen became their guy. I mean, how are you to trust it? I mean, you have to question it. You have to question it. But thank you. Slippin' Pete, did you bail on Todd Mullis? No, I didn't. Are we believing prison snitches now because they help Rick? I mean, that wasn't very helpful to Rick. So, and it's hard to know whether or not who to believe and who not to believe. It's like really the only way that you can ever do that is to converse with them, and I'm not about to start buying Ricci Davis commissary so that he'll message me on his tablet. I'll leave that to the other podcast. It's more up their alley. So, but thank you for the generosity. And then Lisa, finally, last but not least, thank you for the live. Hit everyone hit the like on the way out. Yes, for sure. I am pretty exhausted. I had a long day doing actual podcasting, finishing that Garcia. Allie and I were down there for hours. So we love you guys. You guys are all amazing. We are so grateful that you are in our community. If you're not, think about joining our community. Please make sure that you like on the way out. Make sure that you share. Make sure that you subscribe because all of those things are helpful. If you are a replay crew, leave a comment. Start a conversation in there. That also helps get into the algorithm. Because without you guys, I don't have my partner. She dipped on me. I don't know where she went. Oh, I guess she's taking scout to volleyball. So we love you guys. I'll be on PB this week some point. We think it's going to be Thursday, and that's publicly buzzed if you're not aware. So we're thinking it's going to be Thursday. I did not catch up on Severance. No, I actually watched that Ruby Frankie thing last night, and oh my God. I put a tweet out today. I mean, she literally is Lori Vallow. She's warped, man. Just so warped. It's so bizarre. Like I sit there and Alice and I are like, what is going on? These people. It's like the LSD or LDS. Oops, Freudian slip. It's probably because I have my little LSD shirt on here. But the LDS thing with the Mormons, it's like I never want to cast aspersions over an entire faith, obviously, but just kind of like these people that kind of fall out of that and create some kind of bizarre alternate form of that religion are a lot. So, all right, you guys are the best. Remember to share, like, subscribe. I love you. Without y'all, I'm just an old man talking about a lot of cases. See you tomorrow.